3 years. For 3 years, the door to Matthew's room had stayed closed. Today, I was finally trying to pack it up. I picked up a small, dusty trophy from his high school baseball team, my fingers tracing the cold metal. My name is Miranda Faulkner, and I am a 64-year-old woman from Oregon who thought her life was over. I'd spent 1,000 days walking past this room, pretending it wasn't there, pretending the grief wasn't a physical weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. My son, Matthew, had been gone for 1,095 days, killed in a car accident on a dark mountain road, and I was still standing in his bedroom, holding a trophy he won when he was 16. I turned to place it in the cardboard box on his bed, the one I'd been packing and unpacking for months. I was just trying to do something to make the world feel like it was still spinning, even though mine had stopped. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. That's when I heard it. A laugh from downstairs. My husband, Richard. His laugh was deep, booming. It used to be a sound that made me feel safe. Now it just echoed in the empty spaces of our house. Then another laugh. Lighter, breathy. Samantha, my daughter-in-law, Matthew's widow. She'd been coming by more and more often, always with my granddaughter Emily in tow, always with some excuse about needing help with the lawn or a leaky faucet or just to bring me cookies. I thought she was just as lost as I was, just as broken. I stood perfectly still, the trophy clutched in my hand. They were in the kitchen, directly below Matthew's room. Their voices drifted up through the floorboards, muffled but clear. "She's getting suspicious," Samantha whispered. Her voice was sharp, laced with an anxiety I hadn't heard before. I froze. Suspicious? About what? Richard's voice was a low rumble, confident and dismissive. "She's too lost in her grief to see what's right under her nose, baby." My hands started to shake. I set the trophy down on the desk, my movements slow, robotic. I was afraid the slightest sound would give me away. I crept closer to the air vent in the floor, kneeling on the hardwood, not daring to breathe. I needed to hear this. "It's been over a year, Richard," Samantha said, her voice rising. "When are we going to tell her? When are we going to stop sneaking around?" A year. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Soon," Richard soothed, "but we have to be smart. Miranda has money, my money, tied up in this house. I'm going to need my half of everything when we divorce." Divorce. The word hit me like a physical blow. I gripped the leg of Matthew's desk to keep my balance. My husband wanted to divorce me. For her. For my dead son's wife. But then Samantha said something that made the blood freeze in my veins. "I just wish we didn't have to wait so long," she said, her voice dropping to that same conspiratorial whisper. After what happened to Matthew." A cold silence filled the space between their words. "We agreed," Richard said, his tone careful, measured. "We agreed we'd wait 3 years. Any sooner would have looked suspicious." That word again. Suspicious. Why would their relationship look suspicious? Matthew died in an accident. A tragic, horrible accident. What did that have to do with them? "I know," Samantha said. "I still can't believe it worked. When you suggested the brake lines, I thought you were crazy." The world tilted. The floor beneath my knees felt like it was falling away. Brake lines. They were talking about brake lines. "It was the perfect plan," Richard continued, and I could hear the pride in his voice, the smug, sickening pride. "Everyone knows he was always working on that old car. One little cut. In just the right place." I clapped my hand over my mouth, choking back a scream. They weren't talking about his accident. They were talking about planning it. They had murdered him. They had murdered my son. "Sometimes I wonder," Samantha's voice was dreamy, almost wistful, "if he knew. In those last few seconds, before the crash, do you think he realized what was happening? Does it matter?" Richard's tone was cold, practical. He's gone. Emily thinks her daddy died in an accident, and now we can finally be together. Everything worked out exactly like we planned. I must have made a sound, a gasp, a sob. The talking stopped abruptly. I heard footsteps, the scrape of a chair, and then the back door opening and closing. Samantha was leaving. I collapsed into Matthew's old desk chair, staring at the walls. My son, my kind, beautiful son who loved that old Mustang. The son who spent weekends in the garage with Richard, talking about engines. Richard, who knew exactly which line to cut. And me. I had lived with his killer for 3 years. That's when I remembered. My eyes shot to the small white motion detector in the corner of the room. The break-ins. Last summer. Teenagers had broken in twice while Richard was traveling for work. I'd been terrified. I had a state-of-the-art security system installed. The premium package, Mrs. Faulkner, the salesman had said. Cameras, motion sensors, and audio recording in every room. Voice activated. Captures everything for insurance purposes. Richard had complained about the cost, but I'd insisted. For my peace of mind, I'd told him, the conversation, the one I just heard, every word, it was all recorded. I ran from Matthew's room, my legs steady for the first time in years. Rage is a powerful motivator. I tore open the closet door in the hallway, my fingers fumbling for the light switch. The black control panel glowed in the dark. Access recordings. The security company had shown me how, but I'd never needed to. Password required. My mind was blank. I tried our anniversary. Access denied. I tried Richard's birthday. Access denied. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely type. I took a deep breath. What would I have used? Something I would never forget. Matthew, his birthday. Access granted. The files were all there, organized by date, time, and room. March 15th, kitchen, 3:47 p.m. I clicked play. Their voices filled the tiny closet, crystal clear, undeniable. When you suggested the break lines, one little cut in just the right place. Does it matter? He's gone. I listened to the whole thing twice, tears of rage streaming down my face. But I didn't stop there. If they'd been at this for over a year, there had to be more. I scrolled back. August, July, dozens of files. August 3rd, living room, 9:15 p.m. Samantha. He suspected something, Richard. He asked me why I was always coming over here when he was at work. Richard. Matthew's not stupid, but he loves you. That makes him blind. I fast-forwarded through hours of them. Secret meetings, stolen kisses in my own hallway, and then the life insurance. November 10th, kitchen, 11:02 a.m. Richard. The policy is $500,000. $500,000, baby. We just have to be patient. Samantha. Patient? It's easy for you to be patient. I'm still married to him. Then I found it. The one that made my blood run cold. January 18th, Denver, 10:30 p.m. Samantha. We can't keep this up. What if he finds out? What if he divorces me? I'll lose everything. Richard. He won't divorce you. Matthew's not like that. He'd fight for his marriage, counseling, all that crap. Richard. Unless. Samantha. Unless what? Richard. Unless he wasn't around to fight for it. The silence on the recording stretched for a full minute. Samantha, whispering. Are you suggesting? What I think you're suggesting? Richard. I'm suggesting accidents happen, baby, especially to people who spend their weekends under old cars. They were planning to murder my son, discussing it like they were deciding what to have for dinner. I sat in that closet for 2 hours, downloading every single incriminating file onto a digital recorder. The worst part wasn't the affair. It wasn't even the murder plot. It was how little they cared. I found the file from the week after Matthew's funeral. October 29th, kitchen, 2:14 p.m. Samantha, laughing. I should get an Academy Award for that performance. Did you see his mother's face? Richard, chuckling. You were very convincing. Even Miranda hugged you. Said you were like the daughter she never had. I remembered that moment, standing by the open grave, the cold wind whipping my hair. I'd held Samantha as she sobbed into my shoulder, and I thought she was my family. I'd been comforting his killers. I had enough, more than enough. But I wasn't an idiot. Richard was an insurance investigator. He knew how to cover his tracks. I needed to be smarter. I called my nephew, David, a criminal defense attorney in Cleveland. Uncle David, I said, my voice shaking. Hypothetical question. Aunt Miranda, are you okay? I'm fine. I'm updating my will, I lied. I need to understand evidence, recordings. Okay? If a person records conversations in their own home with a security system, is that legal? In Oregon, absolutely, he said. Oregon's a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows it's being recorded, it's fine. But since it's your house, you're the consenting party. It's perfectly legal. Even if the people talking didn't know? Especially then. Why? What's going on? Just sorting the estate, dear. Thank you. I hung up and got to work. For the next 2 weeks, I became an actress. I made Richard his coffee every morning. I asked about his day. I even listened as he complained about a difficult case he was working on. I pulled the original police report from Matthew's accident. Brake failure consistent with normal wear and tear on a vehicle of that age. Of course. Who would suspect a loving stepfather? Then I dug into the insurance. Matthew's $500,000 policy. Sarah had claimed it 6 months after his death. But where did the money go? I found bank records. She'd paid off $150,000 in debts. Debts that weren't Matthew's. I cross-referenced the account numbers. They were Richard's. Gambling debts, transferred to dummy accounts, paid off by Samantha with my son's life insurance money. The web was deeper and dirtier than I could have imagined. On March 30th, exactly 2 weeks after I'd heard them, I decided it was time. I went to the kitchen and pulled out the large roasting pan. Richard, I called up the stairs, I'm making a pot roast on Sunday. Why don't you invite Samantha and Emily? We haven't had a proper family dinner in ages. He came downstairs, a smile on his face. That sounds wonderful, Miranda. A great idea. He kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch, not even when his lips touched my skin. I'll call her now, he said. Good, I said, turning back to the counter. It's time we were all together. Sunday dinner. Samantha arrived first, holding Emily's hand. Grandma Miranda, Emily shouted, running to hug my legs. I kissed the top of her head, my heart aching. She was the only innocent one in this entire house. Go play, sweetheart. Mommy and I need to talk. Samantha sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she'd plotted murder. You know, Miranda, she said, looking relaxed, I've been thinking. Maybe it's time Richard and I, started spending more time together openly, as friends, of course, to support each other. The audacity. She was laying the groundwork. That sounds lovely, dear, I said, my voice perfectly even. Grief is so isolating. Richard arrived, kissing my cheek, playing with Emily. We sat down to dinner, pot roast, mashed potatoes. We talked about the weather. Emily chattered about kindergarten, a normal family dinner, while I sat across from 2 killers. After Emily was settled with cartoons in the living room, I brought out the dessert, Matthew's favorite, chocolate cake. Oh, Miranda, Samantha said, her eyes filling with fake tears. That's so sweet. He would have loved this. Yes, I said, taking a bite. I think he would have. Just like I think he would have loved knowing the truth about what happened to him. The atmosphere in the room changed. The air crackled. Robert's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Samantha's smile froze. What do you mean, Miranda? Richard asked, his voice careful. I stood up, walked to the kitchen counter, and picked up the small silver digital recorder I'd hidden there. I placed it on the center of the table. With deliberate, slow precision, I pressed play. Their own voices filled the silent room. Samantha, when you suggested the brake lines, I thought you were crazy. Richard, it was the perfect plan. Richard, one little cut, in just the right place. Samantha's face went white. A shade of white I had never seen on a human being. She looked like she was going to be sick, right there on my dining room table. Richard's face was the opposite. It hardened, the blood draining away to be replaced by something cold and dangerous. "Turn it off," he said. His voice was quiet, a command. I let it play. "Samantha, do you think he realized what was happening?" Richard, "Does it matter? He's gone." I pressed stop. 23 recordings, I said, my voice conversational as if discussing the weather. Spanning 8 months, every detail of the affair, the insurance fraud, the planning, and the execution of my son's murder. Samantha finally broke. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that," she shrieked, the words tumbling out. "I swear, Miranda, we never meant for... We fell in love." "So you killed him," I stated. It wasn't a question. "No, it was an accident," she cried, hysterical. "We just wanted a little accident. Something to put him in the hospital for a while, just to give us time to figure things out." "A little accident," I repeated, my voice flat. "You cut his brake lines, Samantha, on a mountain road. What did you think was going to happen?" Richard stood up, his chair scraping violently against the floor. "This conversation is over. You can't prove anything." "Can I?" I smiled. It felt strange, like my face had forgotten how. "I've already made copies, Richard," I lied. A stupid, desperate lie. "Multiple copies. And my nephew David, the criminal defense attorney, he's reviewed everything very thoroughly." The color drained from his face. "What do you want, Miranda?" he asked, his voice flat, defeated. "What do I want?" I set the recorder down. "I want my son back." "I want the last 3 years of agony back," I said, my voice rising. "I want to undo the moment I held you at his funeral, Samantha, and told you that you were family." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. "Since I can't have any of that, I'll settle for justice." "Please," Samantha begged. "Think about Emily. What will this do to her?" That was the wrong thing to say. "You should have thought about Emily," I said, my voice dropping to ice, "before you murdered her father." I picked up my phone. "Who are you calling?" Richard demanded. "Detective Morgan. He handled Matthew's case. I think he'll be very interested in some new evidence." Richard lunged. He lunged across the table for my phone, but I was faster. Grief and rage are excellent motivators. I stepped back, holding the phone out of his reach. "Don't," I said. He froze. "Emily is 10 feet away in the living room, listening to cartoons," I said, my voice deadly calm. "Do you really want her to see her grandfather assault her grandmother?" The look in his eyes told me he was considering it, but he stopped. I finished dialing. "Detective Morgan, please. This is Miranda Faulkner." "Yes, I'll hold." "Detective, I have new evidence regarding my son, Matthew's death. Evidence that proves he was murdered." Detective Morgan and another officer arrived in 20 minutes. I had already sent a numb, sobbing Samantha home with Emily. The child didn't need to see this. Richard, on the other hand, had shifted. He was in damage control mode. "You'll never prove intent," he hissed at me while we waited. "Conversations can be taken out of context. A good lawyer will tear this apart." "We'll see," I said. I explained everything to Detective Morgan: the overheard conversation, the security system, the 8 months of recordings. I handed him the small silver digital recorder. "Mrs. Faulkner," he said, his face grim after listening to just the first 30 seconds. "This is compelling, but it's a copy. For this to be admissible, we'll need the original source files from the system itself." "It's in the closet," I said. "We'll need a forensic team to retrieve the hard drive properly," he said. "We can't just pull it. We'll schedule a unit to be here first thing 9 a.m. Don't touch it. Don't access it. Don't even look at it. Understand?" "Yes," I said. 9 a.m. They took Richard with them for questioning. As he was led out in handcuffs, he looked back at me. It wasn't a look of fear. It was a look of calculation. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, staring at the front door, waiting for morning. At 3:17 a.m., I heard it. Not the front door, not a window. A crash of plastic and drywall. From the hallway. I ran. The closet door was open. Richard was gone, but he'd been here. The security panel was gone. He hadn't just smashed it. He had ripped it from the wall, taking the wires, the hard drive, everything. My evidence, my 23 recordings, my justice. It was gone. He'd been released, or he'd escaped, or he'd sent someone. It didn't matter. He had been one step ahead. My copies lie. My stupid, fatal lie. He knew I didn't have copies. He knew the only evidence was in that box. I sank to the floor, pulling my phone out with numb fingers. "Detective Morgan." "Mrs. Faulkner? It's 3 a.m. "He was here," I whispered, my voice breaking. It's gone. The system. He ripped it out of the wall. The hard drive. Everything." There was a long, heavy sigh on the other end of the line. "Mrs. Faulkner," Morgan said, his voice tired. I'm sorry to hear that, but you have to understand. Without those source files, the copy you gave me, it's worthless. It's inadmissible. Hearsay. But you heard it. You know they did it." "Knowing and proving are two different things, ma'am. Without the original files, there's no way to authenticate it. Richard's lawyer will say you manufactured it out of grief. I'm sorry. Your case is gone." He hung up. I sat on the floor, surrounded by drywall dust and severed wires. Gone. It was all gone. He had won. He had killed my son, and he had gotten away with it. I stared at the wreckage, at the empty hole in the wall, and then I saw it. A small sticker, still stuck to a piece of plaster, a blue cloud logo, the salesman. "And for just $10 a month, Mrs. Faulkner, our premium cloud backup. Every file, audio, and video is instantly and securely uploaded to our off-site servers, just in case of, fire or theft." I'd paid for it. I'd been paying for it for 8 months. The $10 charge on my credit card I'd almost canceled a dozen times. I scrambled, pulling my laptop from the kitchen counter. "David," I whispered, my voice hoarse when my nephew picked up. "Aunt Miranda." "What's wrong?" I told him. Everything. The recordings. Richard. The smashed panel. "The cloud," I said. "I have a cloud backup." "He knows that," David said, his voice suddenly sharp, awake. "He managed your finances. He knows about that $10 charge. He's not just destroying the physical drive, Miranda. He's trying to wipe the server. You have to get there first." "How?" "I'm sending you the portal link now. What's the company?" I told him. "Okay, log in. Now, Miranda. He's probably in his car right now on his laptop trying to delete it." The login page loaded. User, R. Faulkner. He was the primary account holder. I typed in the password, the same one he'd used for everything. Our anniversary, access granted. A list of files populated the screen. Kitchen, March 15th. Den, January 18th. Living room, August 3rd. They were all there. "I'm in," I said. "Download them," David ordered. "Download everything. He's going to get a notification that you logged in. You don't have time. Start with the big one, the break lines one." My fingers flew. I clicked download, file downloading 2%. "It's slow," I whispered. "Don't stop. Download the next one, and the next. Just keep clicking." I clicked, my heart hammering. Kitchen, March 15th. Download complete. Den, January 18th. Download complete. For hours I sat there, clicking, downloading, watching the progress bars. At 6 a.m., just as the sun was starting to stream through the windows, I had all 23 files saved. on my laptop, and on a USB drive. I sat back, shaking. He'd thought he was so smart, ripping the box out of the wall. But he'd forgotten about the one thing he couldn't touch. I picked up my phone. I dialed. Morgan. "This is Miranda Faulkner," I said. My voice was no longer weak. It was steel. "Mrs. Faulkner, I told you." He ripped the box from the wall. But he forgot about the cloud backup. There was a dead silence on the line. "I have all 23 original, authenticated, time-stamped files straight from the server, and I'm sending them to your email right now." Another pause. "Mrs. Faulkner," Detective Morgan said, his voice suddenly very, very awake. "Don't go anywhere. We're on our way." "I'm not going anywhere, Detective, and this time my evidence is indestructible." The authenticated cloud files changed everything. The digital recorder was a prop. The server-verified MP4s were a smoking gun. My house became a crime scene. This time, it wasn't a routine check. It was a homicide. Forensic experts authenticated the recordings. Voice recognition specialists confirmed it was Richard and Samantha. The investigation was back on, and it was moving fast. Detective Morgan reopened the physical evidence. Matthew's Mustang had been sitting in an impound lot for 3 years. This time, they didn't send a beat